All right, all right. Welcome everyone. I have Mr. Alvin Garrett here with me with View Magazine. What's going on, Alvin?
How you doing? How you doing? I'm doing wonderful.
I'm amazing. I'm amazing. So I'm excited to talk to you and get into your background and being in the music industry. So let's go ahead and get into it. So before that, give us a little bit of your background information and how you got your start into music.
Well, I am from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, born and raised. Roll Tide. Uh, I'm a church kid, pastor's kid. Grew up in church and picked up the bass guitar. That's where I got my start. And I'll say, loving music uh, as a musician. Picking up the bass guitar was my first love, and all throughout my young adult life, all throughout life, I've been a bass guitarist. Uh, but then went off to college after graduation, came to Birmingham, Alabama, which has been my home since then, and just evolved from being a musician into a producer, songwriter, an artist. Now that's my most favorite thing I've evolved into, and even executive, running my own record company, my own entertainment company. And hopefully throughout this interview, we can dive into the details about my journey. uh, I've been played football, got a business degree. So a lot of things sprinkled around the music that helped make me into who I am. But it all started in Tuscaloosa, Alabama on the bass guitar as the foundation that got me to this point where I am tonight.
All right, you said it all started in Tuscaloosa. Okay. All right. I mean, so let's kind of dive into it. You said that's where pretty much where you got your start into because you work with a lot of different big artists. So I want to, and this is good too for even people that are aspiring producers and songwriters and things like that. Let's kind of like walk us through the journey of getting introduced into the industry, but even getting to that level of working with that caliber of people.
Well, for me, my instrument was my tool that moved me forward and got me into the rooms I needed to be in to start building those relationships that led me to the connections as a writer. And this was not an overnight process by any stretch of the imagination. When you're talking about a 20-year journey, for me, once I became an adult, let's say after graduation, you really are on your own. Since that point, after graduating from college, knowing that I got to pay my own bills, there was no quote unquote industry waiting on me. It was entrepreneurship. You know what I mean? So I engaged in entrepreneurship first. As a musician, as a songwriter, producer, I engaged on the local level. You know what I mean? Started my own band, started promoting my own concerts. Just so happened the lead singer of my band was a guy named Ruben Stutter, went off and won American Idol. You know, so
Mhm.
many people would say, "Oh, you got lucky," but I would say I was blessed and positioned properly based on building relationships, and from there, that led me to be able to tour as a musician around the country as a bass guitarist for the American Idol tour. But along the way, I kept my love for learning and my value of relationship building that helped me evolve to the point where I could be prepared when I met that producer who said, "Hey, uh, you're talented. You want to write." You know what I'm saying? And then yes, let me write. I wasn't saying how much you paying, right? It was and that you never ask that question out here if you want to make it far. How much is it paying? Because if
Mhm.
that is as far as you can think, then that's as far as you're gonna go. That's transactional. I always say you have to build a pipeline with the people who can give you the knowledge, pass your name along the networking that can move you forward to where you may have an opportunity to write for artists that are out there that are big. And that was my journey. It was really people passing my name along to producers and writers and labels and say, "Hey, this guy, not only is he talented, but he's a hard worker. He's dependable. He picks up the phone, all those intangibles that make you an asset to somebody else." So I'll encourage anybody, like, hey, if you want to get to that point where you can build a resume, you got to first, strike that question, how much is it paying? Because most of the time you have to make decisions that may or may not pay off in the short run. So you have to classify them as investments. And so that's how I've seen, and that's been my perspective. And that's how I was able to build a resume that includes artists like Joe, Fantasia, Kelly Rowland on the R&B side, gospel artists, get a Grammy nomination, Soul Train Award. All of that really goes back to that same principle of I'm willing to invest in myself and invest in relationships.
Love that. I love that. And you brought up something too about relationships, because I don't think people understand how important it is to build those relationships when it comes to networking. And so, it still wasn't like how you say you work with Ruben Studdard, he was a part of your band, but it was still, once again, it was still a relationship
Mhm.
building process, to even, get that going with him and get you to the other ones. But I want to what were some of your, I guess, like fondest memories, even like working with a lot of those different artists, and what did that teach you and help you, like even build your character and even help develop you career wise?
Well, one of the most important lessons I learned once I finally started working with artists that were, I'll say, that were where I was aspiring to be, I learned that they're just peers. They're just human. Of course, Ruben Studdard, that's my dude. I knew him before he was famous. So I had a real intimate understanding of how things can change overnight. So I wasn't really starstruck when I met a lot of people
Mm.
being out there like that. But once you go backstage, once you get close enough, they don't want fans backstage. You know what I'm saying? Like, be qualified to be in the room with these people. You know what I'm saying? Like, hold your own. You know what I mean? When I'm sitting in the studio with these major artists, they don't know how to produce their own vocals. If they did, they wouldn't have me. You see what I'm
Right.
saying? So you go in with confidence saying you deserve to be in the room. And so that was one of the things that I think a lot of people don't understand is like, you're looking at somebody on stage on the big screen, they're celebrity to you, but to us, we're peers. They want, give respect, get respect. But you gotta earn it when you go in and say, hey, I'm here to do a job, respect and with humility, but trust me, right?
Right.
Trust, trust me to arrange these vocals, trust me to produce these vocals, trust me to write this song or call somebody else. You can't go in, all starstruck, like, oh, you gotta get an autograph and don't deliver. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Okay. And so, and I want to get into even your transition to from just being a songwriter to even becoming an artist yourself. So I know you had a project 2012, you had a project come out and some other things. So talk about that transition. Like, what was that like for you, going from more so behind the scenes to being in front?
Well, it all started because like my dad and I, he's not only my father, my friend, my pastor, but he claims to be my biggest fan. And
Mm,
so anytime I would write music, I would send it to him to listen to, and you get enough of them done, you just
mhm.
make me one of them CDs, baby. Make
Yeah.
me one of them CDs. And so I would always make him a CD of 10, 15, 20 songs. He would write. He said, man, he said, have you ever stopped to listen to yourself? And at the time, I saw myself as a writer, as a producer. My whole entire goal was to get these songs placed, get that check. So I
Mm,
wasn't really listening to my own voice from that perspective, but he slowed me down. He said, hey, these other people can't, he said, they may be famous, but they can't sing your songs like you. He said, you
mm.
have a different passion. He said, he said, you sound more believable than they do. He said, they sound good.
Right.
He said, I know that's what you do. He said, but you should stop and listen to yourself and see how good you are. And that was, because I trust my father and I'm blessed to have a father in my life. I trust.
Hmm.
So I stopped and I said, let me actually listen to my own music, not as me, but as like, oh wow, like I actually do sound these.
Sound nice.
It's okay. This could be a whole album. You know what I'm saying? And you start rearranging them and start messing around with it. Next thing time passed. And I was like, let me just give it a shot. And I won't lie as if it was an easy transition for me because I was
Right.
more comfortable being in the background. I was more comfortable sort of hiding behind artists you already know and just, hey, I'm cool. Just send me my check.
Mhm.
Take my placement. I'm good. When you step
Right.
front, you know, it's a whole different relationship, a whole different investment in terms of how you live your life. I had to hire a personal trainer. I hired a vocal coach. I hired a stylist. Like I literally had to learn a whole different way of living to get on the journey of being an artist that had nothing to do with me being a writer. You know, how I dressed didn't matter when I was behind the scenes, you know, like, hey, flash the dimple, I'm good. You know, I don't need no, well, I got to spend all that money on clothes. I'm cool, you know.
Right.
But
Yeah.
when
Mhm,
you are the brand, it's a different investment, it's a different engagement. And so that
mhm,
became a journey for me. And, you know, next year, like pretty much 10 years in, you know, I found myself, you know, I found my space.
mhm. Okay. I love it. And because that's I want to ask you about that too. Like even like you say, you went from, not really caring about what you look like and that type of thing. And then you putting this music out and being the face of everything. It's kind of like, okay, now I'm worried about are they gonna like my music? Are they gonna, what are they gonna think about me? Things like that. So it's you know, even like getting that confidence of saying, but like you say, your dad, he's being your biggest supporter. He was able to really help you out with that. But are there some other things that you really did, or was it just more so just it just kind of came over time?
Well, it was, you know, I'm a fairly confident person. Um, and so I wouldn't claim that being insecure is a part of my personality at all. Because I'm a true extrovert. I love people. I say I take me in a room full of strangers, I leave with a room full of friends.
Hmm.
Had to learn not to compare myself to all of the many great singers and performers that I respectably work with or that I admire myself as a fan. Um, you know, I'll give you one example. Uh, you know, most of the work that I did for Joe, I sent my demos in. He went and recorded it with his people. I never got in the studio with Joe one time, but he came to Birmingham after he had a couple of hit records with me, and I got to meet him. You know,
Ah, okay.
keep in mind now, I'm a fan. I ain't not lying. I'm a fan. Like I've been a fan of Joe's like forever. So
Hmm.
here I am finally getting to meet this guy who's been singing my songs, and you know, I'm like, so and when he meets me, he's like, hey man, and I'm saying like I'm all giddy.
Right.
And I was like, man, you know, like, why didn't you change? I thought you were gonna change the song. You know, when I sent my demos in, I figured he was gonna make them better. He said, what? He said, no, bro. He said, I tried my best not to change anything. He said they were perfect. I was like, huh? So he was like, no, 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 no. He said, man, when you send me songs, I
Uh-huh.
respect it. And I'm like, who is this guy? He said, man, you found a way. And he said, and I'm a writer. He said, so you know I'm critical. He said, but I didn't want to touch your arrangement because they were so well laid out. I wanted to pay homage to your songs and your arrangements. He said, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. And when I tell you, for somebody you look up to like that, to tell you to your face, here's why I don't modify your melodies and your ad libs, because I respect you. So that built me up to say, whoa, and not just my pen, but it was my singing as well, because he pretty much stayed true to the outline, which at the time I wasn't hearing myself. I
Hmm.
was thinking, well, he's Joe, he gonna blow this away.
Right.
But he was hearing it saying, wow, who's this guy? Who's this voice? Let me pay tribute to that in my performance as an artist. So, you know, I didn't know and realize he was complimenting me at the time, even before I met him. And so that helped build me when I went on that journey to start saying, okay, I'm special. You know, I can do this artist thing. You know, people are listening to me not just for my pen, but
Hmm.
for my voice as well.
Right. And it's interesting. You say you were writing for a lot of these people and didn't even meet them because most people would probably think you sitting in the studio with them and y'all just kind of having a good time. But that's interesting. You said
Oh
it's
yeah. I mean, you know, with modern technology, you know, you're not always flying and sitting in the studio. You know, hey, send a demo. You know,
right.
and so I produce, I engineer. So I always send out my sessions very very organized. It's like a little map. You can just copy and paste, record, follow it. you know what I mean? And a lot of people on the outside end don't know how that process works. But you may not always get in with the artist. You may just
Mm,
send your demo, your arrangement. They'll go in
right.
with their own team and tweak it or do whatever they're going to do. So most of the artists, you know, that I've worked with, I didn't get a chance in the earlier portion of my career.
Hmm.
As I stayed at it, word got out that I was a great vocal producer. Then that's when they start saying, "Hey, can you come to the studio?" Because
Hmm.
vocal production is something totally different than just writing and arranging. That's how you make a person feel, how you push them, how you arrange those ad libs, how you get them comfortable. It's a different type of engagement when you're getting called in for vocal production, whether you wrote the song or not. So
Hmm.
people, you know, my peers started saying like, "Oh, wait a minute, this boy bad. He can pull out great performances." And
Right.
you know, so that's when I started being able to get in the studio with a lot of artists because they realized there was value to having me in the room.
Mm. And it's interesting, like how you say it was valuable. So it's like initially you were still, providing a service to them, but it's like the more valuable you became, it's like the more they wanted you, the more rooms you got in. Okay.
Absolutely. And you have to show your value, not just go out and try to sell it. You have to show it. And
Mm.
so oftentimes I go in these rooms, you know, as low man on the totem pole, they're like, "Who's that guy? Don't worry about me. You just trust me." You know what I mean? Just get in. And I had to earn that trust. And certainly I had a couple of, you know, people like I'll give a shout out to my man Fred Jerkins, the third from Dark Child. You know, a lot of people know Dark Child Rodney Jerkins. That's his older brother. Did a lot of the songwriting and vocal production with Brandy, Michael Jackson, J Lo, all of them. He was a mentor of mine. Took me in the younger stage of my career, and sort of guided me and told people to trust me. Say, "Hey, you're in with Alvin. I'm leaving." They're like, "Huh? I thought I was coming to work with Uncle Freddie." He's like, "I trust him. You trust him." And so he taught me and got me to the point where he could leave his artists in the room with me and step away. And then when they came back, they're like, "You see what I'm talking about?" and so, and so
Wow.
and so now when people reach out to me like, "Hey, is Alvin going to be there?" You know what I mean? Because they know the way we work together as a team. But I had to go in and prove myself. You know, he didn't write me a big fat check and buy me a new car to get in the room. He was like, "Hey, I'll let you in, but you
Mm.
got to earn it. You got to work for it." And so that's a part of my journey that I share with other people. So, hey, I can't make you anything. I can't give you anything, but I can
Right.
open a door for you to earn it yourself.
But you still got to put the work in though, you
You
know.
have to. You have to.
Mhm. So you had you said you had your album in 2012, it was your debut album, and then in 20 what 15, I
Yeah.
believe you released The Hill.
Well, I released by myself in 2015. That was
Hmm.
my first single that I pushed at radio as a solo. Mhm.
Wow. So what we're coming from 2012, 2015. So as the even like the progression of once again coming from songwriter to artist, like what was that journey like for you throughout that time period?
Like I said, it was scary at times. And then also, here's another thing I want to bring out. You know, when you're evolving and transforming, you're gonna, you know, you're actually taking something from somebody else, right?
Mm.
So when I'm becoming an artist, I'm not giving that time as a songwriter. So you might ruffle some feathers because we want you to be what you are. So
Right.
when I started writing, you know, a couple of people like, "Man, but you're so good on the bass. Like, why you want to go and do that?"
Right.
Or, you know, when she start trying to produce, "But you're so good at this. Why do you want to do that?"
Hmm.
Because people depend on you, that you become a part of their formula. And
Right.
so I had to realize that a lot of not rejection, it felt like rejection at the time, but
Hmm.
here it is. I'm a talented dude and I go hard. Like and as talented as I am, I work twice as hard. Right. I'm just one of those people that have impeccable work ethic. So I
Right.
realized how valuable I was to people doing what I was doing.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, no, don't go be an artist.
Right.
Keep writing
Stay
these
here. Mhm.
for me, right?
Right.
So I'd have to tell people, you know, a part of becoming an artist was also learning I'm gonna have to lose some folks. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna have to lose some relationships that aren't conditioned to me being this guy. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? And not be resentful. And I'm not gonna lie and say that I wasn't resentful because I'm expecting the people I'm in relationships to also turn around and push me on up and out. But it's more advantageous for them to hold on to me as I am, right? And so from my own experience, I tell people like, just consider that, like how valuable are you to somebody when you
Right.
start trying to change? people,
Mhm.
people are resistant to you changing and becoming something else because they got to get used to that. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? It's not easy. You know what I'm saying? And that happens on a personal and professional level.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, that's definitely true when it comes to friendships, when you outgrow people and, they're used to you being how you were in high school or college or, pretty much how they met you. And then when you become a different version of you, it's like, okay, do I stay the same to keep them happy or do I just fully evolve into who it is that I'm coming to be? So,
Right.
yeah. So I want to get into too, you also have something called The Right Life, your
Yeah.
program. So let's get into that.
Well, a part of my evolution that we've been talking about was me finding my love for teaching what I do. Now, of course, being in the studio, I developed a way to connect and coach other artists to get the best performance.
Mhm.
And even in writing songs for other artists, there was a formula that I developed over the years. And so I just sort of turned it into a curriculum, got invited to a couple of schools here locally, found out I'm good at teaching, and over
Mhm.
here, just developed a process in a songwriting class called The Right Life, and that's WRITE. And so
Mhm.
dialogue, engagement. I teach people to write songs, and oftentimes they maybe not even aspiring to be writers for the industry for industry purposes. I even use it for therapeutic purposes. And over the past few years, got connected with a reentry program, a workforce development agency here in Birmingham called
Mhm.
the Gannon Project, and we found that this program has been very therapeutic in enhancing the experience of our young adults and adults who've been in contact with the criminal justice system in some way, shape, or form, or from at-risk backgrounds. Music, the soundtrack of life, being able to engage them as they're making decisions to better themselves. This
Mhm.
Right Life program has been a great um, uh, sort of incentive to encourage them to keep on that good path.
I love it. I love it. What you doing? So for the youth, if they want to be a part of it, how can the people join, or be a part of the program now?
Well, right now, the Right Life, I'm getting to the point where we start marketing it to the general
Mhm.
public in sort of a masterclass format. But for right now, it's been more of a philanthropic thing that I've been doing with the Dannon Project. But we're talking to some school systems and
Mhm.
even some other organizations who have sort of seen me do it and say,
Mhm.
hey, can we engage you, to come be a part? So as things grow, I definitely will be putting the information out there, make sure you and everybody know when
Okay.
I'll be hosting seminars and classes for the Right Life.
Okay. I love it. And so, as we get ready to wrap this up, I want to ask you, what are some once again, let's talk to those aspiring producers and artists. What are some
Mhm.
of your best tips of advice or even like some lessons that you learned along the way throughout your journey?
Well, those kind of questions you can go
Oh
so
yeah.
different
So
ways,
yeah.
right? But I always go back to your roots and what grounds you. Um,
Mhm.
and for me, it's been learning humility. When I say learning humility, it's not something you're born with. Right? We're born with gifts, we're born with talents, we develop these things. And with that comes a lot of praise and expectations that are sort of that don't lead to humility. You getting pat on the back. I was a star ball player. All of that stuff can lead you
Mhm.
everything but humble,
Mhm.
right? But you have to learn how to humble yourself because at the end of the day, you're never the best.
Mhm.
Never.
That's true.
Okay, how good you are never the best. And
Mhm.
when you think you are, or you've been told you are by your social media followers, by your friends and family, they've been
Mhm.
lying to you. You're just not the best.
I mean, yeah, it's facts.
And if you don't learn to humble yourself, life will do it for you. And so
Mhm.
I can go 1,000 different places with that answer, but
Mhm.
learn to take an humble approach, and you'll find that people will lift you into situations, invite you in the rooms you ain't got to kick the doors into, right? Like, kick
Mhm.
the door in, kick the door in. You deserve it. You deserve it. No, you don't.
Right.
Humble yourself and learn that, hey, it's a gift. It's a privilege to do
Mhm.
what you do. Work your talent, you know what I'm saying? Do your thing, but learn to add humility to your formula, and you'll realize you'll see doors opening left
Yeah,
and right because you're tolerable, right?
exactly.
Talented people are just intolerable. I don't care how talented you are. I'm looking for your replacement because I can't tolerate you. You see what I'm
Right.
saying? And this is something I had to learn. This is not something I started out with. I had to develop that where I'm like, I want to be angry, I want to pop off, but let me just woosah.
Down, yeah.
That's on me. Like, let me take the hit on this one. So
Right.
I encourage people in whatever they're doing, be it being an artist, being just, it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Learn humility and make that a tool that you use. And it ain't got the, I understand, like, I don't want to fake, man. I can't do that fake humility. Well, you might do that fake fame,
Yeah, yeah.
They say fake it till you make it. You feel?
Uh-huh. Yeah, but I think that that is so important because like you say, a lot of people and a lot of times, they get to a certain point and they get certain accolades behind their name, and it's almost like the untouchable
Right.
in a way. And like you said, life will definitely humble you. If need be, you'll get humbled down. So yeah, I love that.
Oh yeah.
Well, Alvin, I've enjoyed speaking with you. Where can people find you? They want to learn more about your projects and everything you have going on.
Well, you can go to alvingarrett.com. Just
Mm-hmm.
put .com at the end of that name right there.
Okay.
And if you want to find me on social media, put the Alvin Garrett, not that Alvin Garrett,
The
the the Alvin Garrett on Facebook, so Instagram, Twitter, and also on all your streaming platforms. Just look up Alvin Garrett to sort of go through my catalog, listen to all my music. My latest project is called The Lightness of Love. It's one of those kind of smooth R&B, jazzy type vibes. If you want to get snuggled up with the one you love, if you just vacuuming, you know what I'm saying, clean up behind the cat,
okay.
So The Lightness of Love is my latest project, but they can check me out there on their streaming platform. Just type in Alvin Garrett.
Oh yeah, we before we leave, let's talk about the the current project. Yeah, let's one more time. Let's kind of get into that before we go.
Okay, well, The Lightness of Love, man, it's my latest album that I released, and I actually released the first version of it earlier this year in February.
Mhm.
But because I personally love the music so much, I
Mhm.
added 4 new songs in the same kind of light vibe and released the Lightness of Love Deluxe here in September because I
Mhm.
wanted to tour with the music. I wanted to perform it live. And so now
Mhm.
things are opening back up. You know,
Right.
and venues are starting to host more events. I
Mhm.
wanted this to be the music that I perform when I hit the stage, and I'm starting to move around a lot more, like a lot of other artists. And so we're grateful and excited about that.
Okay, and it's called The Likeness of Love.
The lightness of love, yes, because love should be light.
Yeah, it should be. The Lightness of Love. You said it's available on all streaming platforms, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Okay. All streaming platforms. So definitely. So alvingarrett.com and social media, the Alvin Garrett.
That's right.
Okay. All right. Well, look, I've enjoyed talking to you this evening, Alvin, and much success. Anything else coming up that people should know about?
Well, I'm grateful and thank you for your time and allowing me to speak to all your faithful followers and supporters. And hopefully they'll add me to their list of people they check out. So thank you.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much, Alvin.